I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting for today to order. All commission members are present, so we have established quorum. If there are anyone in the audience that would like to speak at today's Planning Commission meeting, if they could please take an oath. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth to this commission? Say, I do.
I do.
All right, thank you. When you do, if you do choose to speak, we were asked today that you step up to the podium, state your name, and also your address here in the city of Athens. We have no cases on our agenda today, so we'll move along to the communications. What we had been discussing previously, I think the last time was May, earlier this year, we delved into the sign ordinance regulation. We had a task force committee review temporary signs in the city of Athens and came forward with recommendations. Those recommendations were discussed at length at the previous Planning Commission meeting. Minutes are available from those meetings. We had not voted on any of the recommendations at this time. Actually, I stand correct. I think one of them...
Real estate signs, the size of real estate signs were voted on, I believe. I think that was an earlier meeting, no?
Yeah, I know we did approve one of them, but again, we weren't going to send, we were waiting until all of the recommendations had been voted on by the City Planning Commission before being moved forward to the City Council. So we had tabled discussion until today's meeting, it appears. Charlotte, do you have which one that we did go with?
I think it would be number 8 at the back here, modify 230313L, B, 3B. Residential zones, 1 real estate sign per square footage should be permitted, provided signs that do not exceed 6 2/10 square feet, single face, and a height of 4.5. I think we'd probably have to go back to the minutes on that. Exactly.
Yeah, I think we would, because I remember we discussed what that size was what we all sort of agreed to.
Well, I wouldn't say we all agreed. I believe it was a 3-2 vote.
I believe so. I don't know if that's easily accessible for anyone. I don't see it here reflected in the minutes.
I don't see it in these minutes either. They're not in the June ones, and they're not in the...
Well, I don't want to keep everyone waiting with bated breath. What we could do is focus today's discussion on the real estate sign aspect of it. That would be item 8 of the recommendations, as well as some of the definitions, 3, 4, and 1, I believe. Since I assume that's what most members of the public in attendance are concerned about.
Since we voted on 8, we need to revisit that.
Well, that's why I'd like to find what the wording was. Unfortunately, it's not showing up, and so it may have to really delve deep. And it could have been as it stood, but I remember a discussion about what the size was changing.
Well, we had discussed the sandwich signs, we had discussed the property rental signs, and we had voted on the real estate signs.
Right. But I felt as if we had changed the size from what was recommended by
here we go.
the size.
July 1st, the minutes from July 1st meeting. Let's see. To modify 2303, I pulled this out.
2009.
2009.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, 2009.
That's
okay.
okay.
That's why you had to go back. I pulled everything that had sign in it from the minutes from planning commissions, and that's why you're probably not going to find anything, because this is my private stock of homework, I guess. Okay. Shall I read the minutes? Would that be too much?
Of the discussion on the sign?
Yes.
Or, no.
No.
What length is it?
Pretty long. I think probably the one we want to look at here is the
Yeah,
motion
let's-
to...
Let's read the motion and the votes.
Okay.
What?
Let's see. Nicholas Bittner moved to add, the sign can be placed no more than 6 days prior to the vacation of rental property. Modification of 2303-13L 3B to 6 2/10 square feet in a single-face sign area and 4.5 feet in height. R.J. Sumney seconded. Actually,
So it is as it was written?
yes, Harry, Paula, and Sumney passed it. Opposed was Weil and Bittner. Motion passed 3-2.
Okay.
So, in theory, if I'm reading this correctly, signs can be put up 60 days prior to the rental property. And again, this is what we passed. It's not
So
been
we
ratified.
added the 60-day, okay.
Yes. And this is from the minutes of July 1st, 2009. And then the following one is, Nicholas Bittner said the committee has not agreed on whether they will add property management signs, but stated the wording of definition 1 was an acceptable definition. I don't know what 1 meant.
One was just property management sign means a sign indicating the rental management or ownership of the building.
Okay. And that was not, again, that's... And there were no further motions from that. Next one after that, next sentence after that was to add to 2303-13E9. Signs shall be placed on ground level floor building. Committee discussed whether the property management signs and temporary real estate signs would be displayed at concurrent times. And I remember that part of the discussion. Property management signs would help with identification of owner of the property for student rentals and emergency vehicles. The sign order discussion was tabled until the next meeting, time permitting. And that's where it stops.
Okay.
Okay?
And then since that time, this board did take action on the property management sign, I believe.
I don't think we did.
We did not?
No.
We did not?
We did
I think that was actually Mike telling John Paskey to do it.
Yeah, that's not really our
Okay.
role.
Okay, what happened there at that point was we reviewed the transcripts from the case of the nameplates from 89, I think it was, or 98. I forget the exact date on that. I did not bring that packet with me. And decided the interpretation after that case is that nameplate signs weren't permitted according to that. Is that how it went?
If I may.
Go ahead.
Kind of take this. What has happened is, you're absolutely right. We decided to go ahead and try to enforce the code that was currently written, and with the supporting evidence of the case from 1999. So you have a copy up there I gave you of the letter that I sent out to all the landlords on June the 2nd of this year, requesting that the property management signs were to be removed. And many of the landlords did so. And what I then told them was that the signs that had to go back up or could go back up, or they asked about what they could do, were for rent, for sale, for lease. They had to be temporary in nature, could not be more than 2 square foot on the house, 5 square foot in the yard, and that they had to come down 14 days after the time a lease was signed. The response, as you saw, the reason we're here is after school started back up, a lot of landlords put the signs back out in the yards. I let them stay up 14 days after school started. More than 14 days went by, we knew the places were occupied, so therefore a week ago Wednesday we issued violations to 28 different property managers and/or landlords around town, stating that their signs that they have up now are in violation of our current written code. So hence the reason for this meeting, I suppose, is to come to some sort of resolution as to when and where and what size signs, if any, are going to be allowed and permissible.
Right.
So,
And what was voted on in that July 2009 one was the addition, the 14 days is already existing, but the addition of how soon before a lease is up that a rental sign could be
Right,
displayed,
or-
which was adding the 60 days.
And that would be in the spring, though, provided that the occupants leave June, which is, I think, common practice. So the theory was that they could put the signs out for 60 days prior to the tenants leaving.
Right. Well, it's probably a good opportunity here if everybody's clear on what's sort of taken place in the past year, is that, again, that reading that was voted on by the Planning Commission, but again, is not gone to City Council, has not been made into law, was, could you read that one more time?
I just lost it again
apologize.
here. Hold on a second. I've been shuffling paper the past 5 minutes here. Okay, hold on.
I could probably surmise it from what I have here.
Yeah, July 1st, that's it. Got buried real quick. I'll let you read it.
Thank you. Motion was the sign, I'll read from the beginning. Residential zones, one real estate sign per street frontage shall be permitted no more than 60 days prior to the vacation of rental property, and 6 2/10, providing that such signs do not exceed 6 2/10 square feet in single-face sign area or 4 1/2 feet in height. So what we could do is open it up to discussion now, and I guess to consider whether there's any aspect of what we have currently voted on that we might reconsider and put forward to a new motion, or if there seems to be general agreement. If you'd like to speak, I guess if you have your hand raised, go ahead.
I just have a question.
You won't pick up on the microphone, unfortunately, so you'd have to go to the podium.
Hi, my name is Dimitris Prokos. I'm a local landlord, and I have a question. In this committee that we're talking about signs, who's going to be voting? Who has the voting power?
All three citizen-appointed commissioners and the mayor and the service safety director.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But then again, let me reiterate that Plan Commission can only make recommendations for City Council. It would have to be City Council to amend the ordinance.
To make it law.
Thank you. Go ahead, if you would.
My name's David Sturbois. I guess my question is, it appears that this group thinks that everybody in town moves in and out at the same time. John said that they waited until school started and then 14 days later went around and passed out, I don't know, warnings or something. But not everybody moves in when school starts. I mean, it's a complicated situation if you're going to try to restrict when a sign can be put up relative to the rental date. You've got to consider what the rental dates are. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, if I have a place that's going to be available in December and classically it rents in August, then I need to advertise in August. So you really need to give some thought to how the rental market works, to what people need to do to survive and get their properties rented. You can't just assume that putting a sign up 60 days before somebody moves out is going to work, because it won't work in Athens unless you have a particular rental situation. It's just more complicated than you seem to be willing to admit or investigate.
If I may, we've had discussions, and I think this board is well aware that what has changed in this market has gone from the 9-month, 10-month lease to 12-month leases, meaning essentially you're advertising now for next school year. And we've discussed that. We've discussed looking at the OU calendar. I believe RJ had mentioned that, to come up with when are we renting, and what period of time, and how long do the signs stay up. We've discussed the temporary signs, 30 days, 4 times a year, but we just haven't come to any significant agreement yet on how you tackle something that, in this town, it's like the town is almost always for rent, at least every fall, and then those that are remainder are still looking to rent. And we know that the rental market's gotten tighter with some of the larger complexes that have been erected here, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak? Go ahead, Demetrius.
Already said, my name is Dimitris Prokos. There are a couple problems with rental market, and RJ has, running the advertising of the Post, should know. And RJ is like a friend, and we're doing business for many years. The reason I ask you earlier, who's going to be recommending things here? I think it's a conflict of interest to have a person that will benefit for us not having signs or damaging the signs to be recommending what we're going to do with the signs. It's not personal. I mean, like I said, we're friends, we're doing business, and we're going to continue doing business. But who's going to benefit the most if we stop advertising via signs, or we slow down the advertising of the sign of our rentals? Will be the newspapers. And we have I think it's a conflict when you have a person that runs the Post, which is the student newspaper in this town, that will take the maximum benefit if we stop any other means of advertising, to have as a member of this committee on that particular issue. And I will...
Well, Mr. Prokos, I picked up the inference the first time you were up. I'll be happy to recuse myself from the discussions, from the voting. However, I think some of the members will tell you that I've probably been the most aggressive in trying to maintain rental owners' rights. So that's fine.
I'll tell you, no, and we're going back a long time.
No, I mean, if you brought that up, then I
think that is just the only thing that's correct and right to do. You cannot represent the industry that will, or make a living from an industry that will make its benefit from choking the sign, choking the other advertising.
Well, that's fine. Then I will excuse myself from the discussion and from the voting.
Okay. I would appreciate it if you do that. It's up to you guys. Sure. Now, I need to go to some other issues. We are all kind friends and definitely neighbors in this community. We run into each other, even the people who don't live in the community, but they're officers in our city hall all the time. One of the things that I feel as a landlord, I feel that every time the city makes a new laws, it's always against the landlords. If the student's doing something wrong, the landlords has to be punished. If the landlords, the local landlords want to increase their profile and build more rentals, they have a lot harder time than big corporations have, and outside corporations coming and taking over our town. Where the local people, we the landlords as an industry, the local landlords as an industry, we're probably the largest industry in Athens next to Ohio University. We support in Ohio University, we service in Ohio University. We all do, direct or indirect. We pay millions in dollars in taxes through property taxes, through income taxes, through payroll taxes. We employ hundreds, maybe thousands, of thousands of employees in our offices, as maintenance staff, as indirect having advertising people with an advertisement dollar. We need your help. If we're the industry in this town, and we all want a beautiful town, I live in the city of Athens. I want the city of Athens to be beautiful. But the city of Athens to be beautiful needs money. And we are the biggest industry that provides money. We buy a property and we pay taxes. Sometimes we pay 1/3 of our rents that we generate to taxes. Ohio University doesn't do that. We are the blood and supply of this town. And you guys constantly choking us. Now, when you're saying that 60 days before the property is vacant, we can put a sign up, that is ridiculous. I mean, it is insulting. The students living in September, when are we going to advertise? In July, when no student is here? I mean, think about it. Okay, I need to rent my place in September. I don't have the funds, or maybe I don't want to spend my money on the Post, on the Messenger, or on a TV advertising. I want to do my business better, and I cannot just throw all this money away. I own a property. Each of my homes or buildings that have apartments in it, they're a small business. You treat it as a business. I pay fees for license for that business. And then I cannot even put my little tag on it to say, I cannot put a business card to say Crocus Rentals. We need to think about what we're doing here. If I need to rent it for next year, you need to help me rent this next year. You need to help all these people renting the properties for next year. The cheapest form of advertising, it is the signs. But the more we keep on putting regulations on the signs, the worse we're going. And that's what happened right now. We have the whole city of Athens looks like it's for rent, like you correctly mentioned it. Because it wasn't look like that was for rent before. But we keep on putting regulations, and now we bring the signs that were nice against the buildings, we bring them out on the street. And sometimes they might not even be on our right-of-way, might be on the city's right-of-way, in order to be seen from the street. Sometimes over-regulation hurts the economy and hurts the progress. You cannot stop the progress from happening. We have to balance the two. The city needs money and needs this industry. We are part of this industry. We just need your help. We cannot choke the one in order to make the other one happen.
Mr. Perkins, I don't want to have too many comments in case other people would like to speak as well.
Okay.
If you give some time for other people to speak and we still have more time, I'm welcome to provide some more feedback. One of the items that you brought up that I do want to touch upon is the fact of the lease ends of September. And again, it seems like as much as we try not to suggest that the rentals in the city are predominantly the university, I mean, time and time again, the examples are always provided, it's on a university-based lease. No one starts a lease in September unless it's based on a university schedule. So, I think that's a valid point that if someone's going to vacate the property in September, then you're advertising in July when students aren't present. So, I think something that we probably should look at is trying to find, where, say, if the members of the commission agree that 60-day window is what we'd like to see for rental signs most of the year, perhaps there's an exception, at the end of, a May to June, or sort of relief, so to speak, for getting rentals, or it's a fall relief where it's not timed to that 60 days.
I think I need to clarify. I was mistaken, I think, if I said the September. I think you rent mid-June to the following. So
then that would
am I getting that?
That's not true.
Some say yes and some say no, so I guess there might be two different.
Okay.
Demetrius, if you would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're running both in June and September. We start in leases September to June, September to September. We have June to the other September. Sometimes you start in September and you end up in December, of course, right. Quarterly. Sometimes you have monthly. But the school starts in September. the majority of the signs are for student rentals right now that you see. That September, if these signs, we were only able to put them out 60 days before the new year starts, that's going to get us in July. And that's what I'm saying. Now, even the June and get you back in April is another problem. The students renting right now, and we have a lot of leases signed for next year right now. That is the Athens industry. I didn't made it.
Right.
And we have to deal with what is happening here. We cannot go and force everybody to start renting in April. And, if my competitor gonna have it available in,
I have one
and we need to
question.
have available properties to be rented at any time, and we need to advertise.
Right. I have a question. How can you sign a lease, if somebody's staying in a house right now and just started their lease, how can you sign a new lease for somebody next year? And what if that person wants to stay the next year but won't know till August of...
The lease has a beginning and an end, okay?
Yeah, but I mean, if I get a apartment in New York, I don't expect to be kicked out immediately because somebody else signed another
Correct.
lease. I don't want to have to keep doing a perpetual lease. I would sign a lease,
Okay.
and then go month to
The
month.
Athens standard is what is happening in our town, and it's not just...
So it's just specifically an
Specific,
Athens.
okay. We at least what we're doing, we rent a lease has a beginning and an end. Most contracts do have a
Right.
beginning and end. Before we end, if we have a tenant that we don't like, and their lease is end on December, 31st, just pick a day, okay? And I know that this place is available on January 1st, I will promote it now for January 1st. Because I might have rented by then, I might have not rented by then. Now, if I have a tenant that is a regular tenant, average tenant, is doing good for us, we're doing good for them, then we go to the tenant and say, Mr. Tenant, you have the first option to renew. I want to start put this property in the market for next year, because in Athens, you have to try to rent 9 or 12 months in advance. That's the way it is. If you wait the last 2 months to rent your property, you don't going to have, the students start looking a lot earlier. As soon as they come back, they start looking for next year. They doing it, we don't force them to do that. Okay? So I cannot wait for the last 2 months to see if this tenant wants to stay or not. So I tell the tenant, if you don't know you're going to stay next year, we're going to put this property in the market. Then before we rent it to somebody, we show the house 3, 4 times, 10 times, whatever it takes, then somebody's ready to sign. Then we might go back to that tenant one more time. Most times we do. And say, Mr. Tenant, we have somebody ready to sign a lease, starting the day after your lease or a week after your lease is over. Now, you have the first option. Do you want to renew your lease, or we're going to sign with somebody else? At that point, we make a decision, and we move on to the next for the next year lease, with a tenant or with another tenant. In general, though, in the city of Athens, the tenants moving around because they have 4 friends, they're in one house, and then 3 of these friends don't get along, or one doesn't get along, so now they want a smaller or a bigger house, or they want to change the group a little bit around. So
you don't get a lot of turnover year to year of the same, or you do get a lot of
we
turnover.
do. If we have tenants that stay, every once in a while you have somebody staying on the same property, but most of the times we're going to have tenants staying stay with us, but going to a different property off hours, just because they want to a larger, smaller, closer to the school, farther away from the school, more party area, less party area, whatever it is, the standards. Okay?
All right, well, thank you for your
But it's very
comments.
important, it is very important that we be able to advertise at the times that the students looking for housing. And they do looking as they're coming back. Proof to that is how many leases already been signed for next year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, gentleman in front, you were on to speak earlier. Thank you for being patient.
I'm Alan McMillan. My wife, Kateri, and I own Cranberry Row. We came here about 4 years ago, and we have tried to be good listeners and try to respond to the community. I think we have a pretty good reputation with the code office as far as we buy the properties, many of them are tired, and fix them up. We put a lot more capital into fixing them up than, if we wanted to grow, we could have grown faster. we felt that we were going to be in here for the long haul, and we wanted to be good citizens of the community. Let me try to answer some of your questions and also make a couple of comments. We live in a market that, I mean, to be a good listener, it's a market that is highly transient relative to the properties. You know, I'd love it, because you have to be in the dorm for freshman and sophomore year. I would love it if people rented for the remainder of their college years and stayed in, and then we wouldn't have to re-rent every year. The trouble is the dynamics. Sometimes you have seniors and juniors, fifth year, senior, you know, it moves, and people like each other, don't like each other, and there's a lot of dynamics. So essentially what we're all deal with, and I would hope everyone would be a good listener, is we're in a market that changes every year. And most of it is you're renting in September for the following week after graduation. That is, you know, so I heard a lot of talk about, but that is the majority of the market. Another dynamic of the market to make you aware is that anything that's 4 bedrooms, hopefully 3 bedrooms and above, you better have it rented by Thanksgiving, or you're in big trouble. The reason for that is the coalitions fall apart. You've got 7 people that want to rent a place, and then all of a sudden 2 break off and get a place. Now you got 5, 1 breaks off, now you got 4. So the size of the group slows down over time. So, you know, but this first quarter, when students come back, is really, really important. And this is a practice that's been happening for 15 years here. And we've invested a tremendous amount of money and studied the market, and some of these changes here are frightening to people that have made significant investments. And, you know, your dollars can only go so many places, and I think we've got a good reputation of trying to make the properties look nicer, certainly trying to make them safer. I was in this room stepping up for code issues that I felt that you should make the code stronger relative to safety. You know, and we're going to continue to do that stuff. I'm not threatening that one's going to go with the other, but and also we're in a recession right now, and to drive the cost of students up, I mean, if it costs us another $10 or $15 a bed space per month because we have to advertise beyond the signs. The number one way we get leads are for people to call by the signs on the property or in the house. We have never, in 4 years, ever done anything without checking with the code office first, be it an improvement or signs. And to be honest with you, I find a lot of this really confusing as far as what the rules are and then what's going to be enforced. And I realized the note, well, it's the position, well, we've got it on the books, so we're going to enforce it. I find that perplexing when I think most people know how the market behaves, and then if we're in violation, doing what we've been doing for, and people who preceded me for a lot of years, I don't, maybe this isn't the form, but I wish we could take, prior to you coming up with you know, your final recommendation, if we could have a round table type thing, where there's more dialogue across the table. And I think that from anything from citizens that object to the way things are going, bravo, we're all in here together. The landlords, the commission. To me, when you just come up, make a comment, answer a couple questions, go down, I'd like to come up, and if it's a compromise to current behavior, but certainly respect the boundaries of the industry, I'd applaud you for taking that up. One other thing I'll let you know, too. We feel that we have a community obligation, and the students who live there do, and they don't always act like it. And so what we do is we post codes of conduct for being a good citizen on the refrigerators, and we go down and have meetings with them if they step out of the bounds of reasonable. And I can tell you something, we get phone calls often, I mean, not that often, because most of the students are great. There are about 5% that are challenging. And we'll get a call and say, trash out front, noise, excessive partying. And you know how they call us? They call us from the sign on the property. So it makes it easy for someone to be walking by with their cell phone saying, I don't like this, call the landlord. And we take those things very seriously. So we want to be community responsive. So whatever we do, we just want to understand it, but I hope that we have a moment of more dialogue than a formal setting like this, and I'd applaud you if you set that up. Thank you.
To respond to that, or the comment about the dialogue, there was a task force that was put together that included real estate agents of what would be recommended for the Planning Commission to consider. And that's where that size of the sign came from, this 6 and 210. It was basically studying what was currently on the market right now, so it wouldn't conflict with, or it wouldn't be impossible to ask.
Well, there's a thing in life called teachable moments. When things happen, like, you get everyone's attention. Mm-hmm. I think we're at a teachable moment as a community by citing 28 landlords.
Right.
And so I just think it'd be really cool if we could do something and just say, can anyone come up with an idea? We got 3 different ideas. Let's hash out. Let's see if we can do something as a community consensus, and no one's going to be completely happy, which is always good compromise. No one's completely happy. No one's completely distraught. Right. But also we protect the industry and the investments for the people that are doing it and trying to do the right thing. Appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I just have a question.
Again, if you could
Up
go to the podium
name.
we can't pick you up a microphone otherwise. And people watching on TV or listening to it, it'd be very odd.
Speaking of teachable moments, sorry.
Joel Loffman, 35 years teacher. Maybe this is a teachable moment. I've studied economics in my time, and in this area I feel that we are demand-driven. This is not necessarily supply-side economics here. And when the demand exists, that's when it must be filled. The demand for properties exists now. And at this time, we're supposed to take the signs down and do what in order to respond to the demand? Now, that to me is a problem, even though I don't have any signs up, so you can go look at my places all you want. But I have noticed in my 15 years of being a small-time landlord that I have advertised and advertised and advertised year-round and gotten very little response. And when I finally stick a cheap, ugly for rent sign in my front yard, the place is gone. Now, that's demand. I mean, I'm in the business of renting property at this point since I've retired. And you're taking my tools away from me, and in the same mouthful, you're telling me to be a good landlord and a good citizen and make some money for the town. You know, make some money for us. Like Demetrius said, my taxes go up hugely every year, every time a school levy passes. I mean, every time we're taxed, we're taxed for all the properties we own. I don't mind that so much. But then you take my tools away and tell me to go operate on the patient without tools. That seems ridiculous to me. Another question the question that I had was, what happened to the idea of 4 30-day periods in the year for rental? I mean, you put signs up for 30 days for the month of, I don't know, let's make it September. You take them down October 1st. You put them back up 3 months later. I mean, to me, that's not a problem because I don't have a lot of rentals. But maybe for the big boys who have hundreds, they'd have to hire somebody to go out and pull their signs up and then hire somebody to put them back in. But at least the kids would know that during those set times, that's when we've got to act. So that might create a little bit more demand for those rental periods. You could make it 1 week a month. But for the small-time guys, that's easy. You put your signs up, you take them down 7 days later. Wait for 21 more days and stick them up again. I just wonder, once again, what happened to that discussion?
Those are temporary signs. John probably correct me if I'm wrong. Temporary signs are allowed to have up 1 month at a time, 4 months total. That is a permitting system, actually, and there's a fee associated with those rental signs. The present rental signs that you put up has no fee attached to it. If you wanted to move all your rental signs into that temporary sign category as a temporary advertisement, and I forget what section that is, there's a charge with that. There is that law in the books. You can actually have a temporary sign.
So I can pay you a permit fee, advertise for all my places for 4 total months out of the year without penalty.
Yes. I believe you have to have the dates on the sign as part of the design.
It'd be a little bit more complicated now. We would have to change the temporary sign rules.
Four permits.
One for each time. Is that correct?
No,
No.
one permit, it's good for 4 months with one, pretty much you can take it down one day in between. You can run it.
And is that the
It would have
standard
to-
real estate size sign?
That is a standard temporary sign. And that's where I say we'd have to change some wordage in the code for it to apply to a real estate sign and in an R1s and R2s.
There's no sign, yeah.
Right, so temporary signs in R1s, R2s, so it would take some action as well. So it
Well, I
could
think
be
that's a
another
pretty
option.
good idea myself. Thank you.
And just to clarify, at least on the existing temporary signs, they could be consecutive months. It could be, you know,
Right.
September, October, and then
But the
April,
thing is
May.
really consecutively. You never know, if you do it every other month, that means you're advertising half as much as you would that property that's available for next year. Still, you don't advertise it until you rent it. You advertise 1 month, still vacant, you cannot advertise it anymore. You have to advertise the next month, and then 4 times, you do that for 4 times, and then you're out. If your place is vacant, you're going to put a sign up.
That would be the issue.
The place should be advertised until it's rented.
Nicholas.
David Sturbois, I have another question. It's been a while since I read Judge Goldsberry's decision, but didn't he say that for rent and for sale signs were permitted? That you could not exclude them?
He did say that, and that's why but our code also does say that they had to be temporary in nature, that they could not be permanent, and that they also had to come down 14 days after the lease is signed or the tenant is occupied, or the
But
building is occupied.
his decision didn't reiterate that. It just said for rent and for sale signs were permitted.
His decision was more about property management signs and whether they were permissible in an R1, R2.
But he specifically said for rent and for sale signs were all right. You could make them take down the property management
Right.
signs.
He specifically said what they had to say on it, didn't say when. And that's where our code currently says 14 days. So that's where this latest action came about.
It seems to me if you can legislate against his decision for a week, you can legislate against it, period, and just eliminate signs. Which would be against, he said that we can use for rent and for
They're
sale.
permitted by code, he agreed to that, and in
Right.
code, they're permitted for 14 days. After a lease is signed, they have to come down. In other words, he agreed with how the City of Athens currently permits the real estate signs. But we're finding that there doesn't seem to be a lot of consensus with landlords agreeing to that. I don't know if there's any comments from anyone else in the public.
Can't resist. Tony Farian. One of the things that I run into, and I wasn't, John and I have spoken extensively about this our Friday afternoon meetings, and one of the things that John brought to my attention was that we can't put permanent signs up. We get a permit, it can be up to 3 by 5 in nature.
In an R3, Tony.
In an R3 zone,
R3.
and permanently affixed. And I've got several homes all the way down Palmer Street, and I thought, wouldn't that be cool if I put a sign, a permanent sign in front of every single one of my properties and had this big flagrant looking permanent sign constantly in front of my properties. Or I could go within the boundaries, and when I get these places rented up for the following year, I'll take my sign down, okay, to try to cooperate with what the city wants. Because I, like everybody else in here, want my property to look good. I don't want it to be a nuisance. But at the same time, what's been reiterated over and over again is, financial. And that's just the way it is. Or I could go within the boundaries of the law and actually make it look worse by putting up these big, gaudy 3x5 signs and keeping them up there permanently. So I've got my choice. I can go pull a permit for a permanent sign right now in the city of Athens, 3x5, put it on a big wooden stake, and make it look any way I want it to, as long as it says for rent. And that would be sufficed by the law. But I choose to work with this city, and as long as I can put up this sign until I get it rented for the following year, I'll take it down. I don't have a problem with that. The other issue that I would like the board to consider is contractual agreements with students. Okay, let's say I sign a lease with somebody. All right, if one day after, let's say hypothetically I have somebody who in October owes rent. The day after they don't pay their rent, that lease is no longer valid. All right? So, from what I understand now, I could put up at least a sign, if somebody doesn't pay their rent, by law, that lease is null and void. So I could get somebody else in there, which means I could put up a sign. I have people constantly who don't pay me on time, which means this happens every single month, which means that every single time that they don't pay their rent, that lease is no longer valid, which means I have the right, or I think I do, to rent it again. And according to what you were saying, 60 days prior to leasing it.
To vacating of the property. So they would have to actually vacate the property for that to go into effect.
Okay.
And also, that is not law at this point. I mean, that's what we recommended. It hasn't been passed by council, the 60-day portion. Let me read the section of it. Real estate signs. Temporary real estates and freestanding or wall signs may be permitted, advertised for sale, rental, lease of premises, or part of the premises on which the sign is displayed. Illumination shall not be permitted. Such signs will be removed within 14 days of the closing of the date of sale of the property or occupancy by a tenant.
Okay,
So you still have a tenant in there, even if they're paying rent or not.
Okay, I got you on that. Clear.
Okay.
But I can put a for sale sign up in front of all my rentals too, if I want to sell them.
Yes.
That's allowed to happen, right? No matter what I do, I'm still allowed to put a for sale sign up in front of my properties.
If it's for sale?
If it's for sale.
Yes.
That's what I do. I buy, sell, and lease constantly.
And this is the problem I have with where the signs are now, because if that argument exists, then everybody could put a for sale sign up.
Absolutely.
And we have to change the law entirely.
Which would be a whole nother can of worms.
Yes.
So that is an option for me to continue to put up for sale or lease, if I choose to go that way and make a mockery of the law.
And we will have to change the law to adapt.
Okay, cool.
And where will we change that law to adapt? And how will it look?
That's up to you guys.
Yes.
So the third point that I'd like to make is, if indeed this other option that you guys have brought up about 2 months prior to, I think the best thing for us to do, or me to do, would be, since I feel personally, and I can't speak for the group, that the city wants more control over this issue, that we should create a department within the city, and I could give them all of my leases, and then they can see when people are moving in and out and when I have vacant properties. And that way, if I put up a sign, they don't just automatically, and as soon as somebody's in that house, I don't know how they would ever do that, by knocking on doors or whatever they do. But if I give them my leases and say, okay, you tell me when I can put up a for rent and a for lease sign, I think that would end my problems, and I could have a little bit more freedom and peace in my life. That would be just a suggestion. I'll pass.
Other comments?
Oh, I do. I didn't sign because it didn't come around to me.
We trust you.
I think that, it didn't go all the way around.
This is proof now of your presence.
My name is Joanne Prisley, and I live at 40 Grosvenor Street, and everybody knows that I don't like signs. If I had my own way, I would get rid of every sign except very low ones, businesses. But what is bothering me now is that all we're talking about is how this affects the landlords. And, you know, my feeling on this is, and it's always been this way, and all the training I've had and all the workshops I've gone to, is that these things in proliferation cause a real problem for your community because it turns it into rundown neighborhoods, and when it gets to the extent that it does in some places, like my own hometown, Youngstown, Ohio. And I drove around there the last time I was there, and here are all these for rent, and all these things. It has turned into a lovely city, into slums. So, but that isn't. I mean, I know you all have where you think about it, and you have where you think about it, and where I do. I would like to say one thing that. Although I'm always saying that I'm not a landlord, I actually am, because I have a sorority house that houses 50-some people, and I'm on the house company. We have the additional problem that they all want to move out and live in your place because we don't let them have men, booze, or drugs. And so they don't want to stay there with us, so we force them to it. But I've been watching them. I've been over there this time we've been working on some other things, and I have not seen one girl. I interviewed several of them, and I said, "You're out looking for a place to live?" And they said, yes. They do not look at anything except online. Every one of them had that computer, and they had the signs, and I can... I think it was maybe one of Wharton's buildings that they had that I watched them do. They all use, and I think, this is probably the coming thing, that they're not going to look in the newspapers, they're not going to look that way, they're going to look at their little phone, they're going to look at their laptop, and that's what they've been doing. So I think that's something that landlords should take into account. My other problem with this is I was very pleased to see the signs come down, and then I thought all of this proliferation of signs, everybody putting some up. I'm not going to mention any names, but I counted one landlord who has 7 signs on his building, in addition to a banner. I will mention no names of this, but so I think this is kind of going to extremes here. I think I agree with you that we've had talks, but we need to sit down and come up with something that is helpful to everybody. But my point is that I don't want to see this city. This should be a perfect city that is used all over the country to show how you can run a community and make it work, with a university that's the monkey on our back, or an elephant, but that we could do that, but we don't. We all sit there and everybody says, well, this is my position, and I'm a landlord and I have to make this money, and I say, well, I'm a property owner and I live in the central city and I don't want these. You're making my city run down. So I suggest if we can, one more meeting. And I will say that I was on one of the original committees, not the original sign ordinance, but several of the revisions and things afterwards, because I was not active when they did the original one. Thank you.
We're already at 1 o'clock. This was not a scheduled public hearing, if I'm correct. So I don't want to go too far in the public comment, but if there's some final concluding thoughts from people in the audience, I'm accepting of that. So you come to the podium and just keep it brief. If you haven't got a chance to speak yet, so go ahead. And then those who have spoke again can maybe 1 minute concluding thoughts would be accepted. Thank you.
Chris Nisley, 15 Old Coach Road in Athens. I would like to make the comment, I'm not offering a position one way or another, but the constituents that I've heard from have complained about the proliferation of signs, that it looks like the entire city's for rent. And so maybe there is another opportunity for some further discussion, conversation with all parties at the table. And as you say, maybe it is a compromise. I don't know. But those have been the comments that I've been receiving lately. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Thank
David Sturbois, I just can't let that statement go that for rent signs create slums. Slums create for rent signs. I mean, the idea that you put for rent signs out and your properties turn into slums is just stupid. You put for rent signs out because there's nobody in them, and if there's nobody in there, that's what turns them into slums, empty buildings. And that's what's wrong with Youngstown. Nobody's living there. We have the opportunity here to fix our places up, to spend some money on them because we have some tenants. And the same people that have been crying out for years that we need more housing, more housing, more housing, now we've got it, don't want for rent signs to rent the housing. 10 years ago, you didn't have to put out for rent signs. And you didn't see them, it wasn't a problem. Because everybody had their properties rented like that. It's different now. Now the economics demand for rent signs.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Perkos.
We had several ideas from many people, and probably the one that makes the most sense is to have another round table, sit down with all parties, and try to work something that will have a balance on our beautifying the town, and at the same time keep a very important industry to the town. Excuse me. Successful. One of the problems we have, we keep on writing laws, and now it's so confusing that when we were calling the code office to tell us what signs can we put in a specific property, took over a month to get an answer. We have a citizen here saying that it is a property that has 7 signs and a banner. Well, that is within the right. It is within the square foot that this property can have. Because the sign laws are so confused right now, and maybe one of the main suggestions I can do today, or give today, will be, let's look at their sign laws. We have a book that takes an attorney to interpret. I mean, our sign regulations are really big, it's very complex, and you guys can talk behind closed doors with our court officers. The court office has problems interpreting what is in there. When we call in and we want an answer, a question, we cannot get a straight question answer on our question because it is so complicated. And now we're talking about some of the ideas here were to create even more rules and more exceptions to the rules, and maybe we're going to start talking about the for sale sign, and the mayor point out that, well, if the people start putting the for sale sign, then we're going to have laws for that. Maybe what we need to do, we need to go back and simplify everything to a point that makes sense to everybody that can cooperate, because there are times that we want to there are times that we cannot cooperate because nobody tells us what's the right thing to do. Because the confusion, maybe the mayor knows what's going on, but by the time we get in the information, it's not the correct information. I have spent thousands of dollars in getting signs. I haven't paid it yet. It's still on my credit card. And now we're talking about changing what you already told me that was okay to do. It is confusing, guys, really. I mean, we all need to work together. So I think we need to have not one, but many more meetings in a round table. And the committee you was talking about that you already had, I don't know if there was any landlord on that. Nobody even, I'm one of the largest landlords of individual properties in the city of Athens. Nobody called us to even ask or send us a questionnaire about anything. So if that committee was from a different industry, like realtors, realtors not necessarily are landlords. Realtors selling, we renting.
Right.
And there are some realtors who do,
Right. Your time is up, Mr. Burks. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, first, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you, because I learned a lot from this, and I appreciate your openness. I do think that the notion of having enjoying a roundtable meeting, if that gets accepted by the committee and you facilitate that, I would really appreciate it, and I think we'd all appreciate it. My suggestion to that meeting, let's not keep talking this to death. Bring an idea, and then we can talk about what people's ideas are. We know that all ideas will have to have compromise. So bring an idea with compromise and look at it from the community perspective. I agree, the community are the people that live here, the people that invest here, the students that live here for a temporary idea. I've got some ideas. I think they could be, it would be give from us, and I think we could do something that would be special. And I do think that Athens has the possibility to become a model community on a lot of fronts, job creation, picking up the economics of the region, and certainly, we think it's a treasure to live here. I will say that we live in the community as well, so, and I took a family friend around and showed him what we had invested in, and he made a comment of how terrible it looked, and to be honest with you, we've been here for 3.5 years. It's never looked as terrible as it looks right now, or before the citations went out, because you had non-professional signs written with magic markers, signs going up. It's the worst it ever was. It's a law of unintended consequences. But I think we're here as a community now, and this is a moment we can go and do it. I will say one thing on the input. We ask everybody that calls us on the phone and wants to schedule a look through. How did you find out about us? It's the signs. I wish it was social media. I really wish it was, and I've heard people anecdotally say that's it, because it's certainly a lot cheaper for us to go ahead and do that. But it's not. Now, I think maybe it'll migrate there over time, but today's not the day. So, anyway, and you made one comment, Mr. Chairman, that it was that we didn't agree. It's just I think we're all trying to figure out how do we make our business models work, and it's not. I want to come to agreement. I genuinely want to do that, but I really appreciate it, and I would applaud it if you'd have some sort of roundtable session. But please, everybody, bring an idea. And then we can go ahead and compare ideas rather than just hash over what we don't like or, the stuff that we could keep going on for hours. Thank you.
If I may, I can, we got a list of everyone who signed up. I can definitely get in touch with everyone and arrange a meeting and do just that, if that's where we want to go. Kind of get input that way.
It's a possibility. I guess I'd be interested in maybe putting together more or less a survey that we can kind of look at what, from the reading of what was the motion and the comments that were made, it seems like people don't have any problem at all with the size of the sign.
No, I think I voted against that.
I remember that was our biggest discussion.
I think I voted against the size of the sign.
Yeah. I was really hoping someone would bring up that size.
It was originally, 5 to 5 feet?
5 by 3, I think.
Yeah. Oh, the actual real estate signs?
Yeah, exactly.
5 square foot is what it was. And then now the industry standard's gone to 6.2, so that's how that came about.
Which means technically every real estate sign out there right now is illegal for the most part, unless it's 5 square feet. Most of them are 6.2.
Right.
As it stands now, if I enforce the law.
Right, yeah, where are we, so it's the 60 days that, from what I get from most people, we haven't suggested where on the, other than per street frontage, but we don't say where on the, on a property the sign has to be displayed, other than we had an earlier discussion about a property management sign and a real estate sign could not be shown concurrently, but again, that was never voted on yet by this commission. Go ahead, Mayor.
Again, looking at what we did when we passed it in July 1st, 2009, we did discuss the idea of when to take the signs down. We thought 60 days prior to the end of the lease was appropriate. I suspect we'd want more input on that. That would be if you're talking about coming up with ideas, this is where you want to look at. How do we schedule it properly? How do we do it so we don't have signs that are up permanently? And I say permanently because I think that's, if you look at the intent of the sign law, and there's a whole preamble on that, intent of sign regulations, including provision of control, design, location, et cetera, promote and maintain high-quality residential zones throughout the city, and promote attractive public facilities by permitting only nameplate signs, bulletin boards, identification signs related to the development of such zones. I would agree with you, Demetrius. It is 12 pages of sign ordinance. But at the same time, I know that other cities have 26 or 30.
Well, excuse me, Mayor, I wasn't talking just...
Go ahead.
I was not talking about this particular sign ordinance. I was talking about our sign ordinance, all our signs.
That's also
Commercial.
all our signs. I'm looking at section 230313, and that pretty much covers everything on sign ordinances till it ends up at, next one after that is 230314, fences, walls, and terraces. That's about 12 pages.
Okay,
And
and
it's a
then
lot.
it refers you in other places, that too.
Yes, it does.
So altogether it will be a lot more than the 12 pages.
Yes. Really, what I'm looking for is input. Realize when we talk about having not discussed this before, I'm looking at the agenda from July 17th, 2009, sign ordinance review under communications, July 15th of 2009, sign ordinance recommendations review. The task force actually met, I think, in 2008, November 10th. The recommendations were in January 20th, 2009. I believe there's another, let's see, I think there's another one out there too, maybe, I'm seeing August 7th, 2008, but I think that was just, we tabled it till we discuss more stuff.
Right.
So we have had meetings. They've been on the agenda repeatedly.
2 weeks prior.
2 weeks prior, whenever we can. We meet every 2 weeks. We could always bring it up again if need be. As you say, Alan, good ideas would be welcome. Again, look at the intent before you start suggesting what we want to do here. There is a section of intent, and I would be remiss not mentioning it as well, that talks about economic sides of the sign ordinance as well. Number 2, to provide, after the first one, number 2, provide reasonable yet appropriate conditions for identifying establishments in business and manufacturing zone. Number 4, to develop most desirable developments and economic activity consistent with the objectives of planning and development program of the city. So these are not alien concepts in the intent. But again, from my point of view, it has to be a balance. There are many people who look as the rental market as a business in their residential zone, and would like to see none. RJ here, who can't speak as a result, unfortunately, was the one who recommended the 60-day appropriate time in front. He also was the one who recommended the enlargement of signs to conform with what exists in real estate signs now. He's been an advocate in that sense, so he's been silenced, unfortunately. I think at this point, we've got your attention. We're listening. You've got our attention. We're listening as well. So come up with some good ideas. We can probably set a date. We'll have to work on that, though, whenever it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whether that appears as a roundtable or a public hearing or something, we will, again, make the public aware, and that how you would suggest to bring in an idea forth. We may end up sticking with what our recommendation, our vote was, but again, it can revolve around that 60-day discussion, and again, it sounds like it's the duration that's everyone's concern, so.
And one more thing, and temporary signs, when you talk about permitted temporary signs, again, 4 months a year, if I remember, there has to be a date on those signs, there has to be a permit, so therefore there'd be a cost involved in that. As it stands now, real estate signs can pop up and pop down without any permitting. If I'm correct, always correct me, John, if I'm wrong about this stuff.
You're right.
Okay. Same thing with rental signs. If these things have been able to come up and come down without our authority or without our purview, but when it gets to the point where we're getting complaints where we're saying these things up. And I don't know the market, actually, because I get mixed messages from you guys. I talk to you guys all the time, and you say, oh, it's wonderful. And, a lot of people don't want to tell bad news if it isn't wonderful. So it's hard for me to get a good read on what the rental market looks like. I know we've been building a lot of apartment complexes. We've been building capacity. How's that reflect in your rental market? I do not know. And again, it would be anecdotal. We don't have a surveying system to find out. I get this question. We've had a consultant come through from the university last month and said, how's the look? And we could just give them stories. Okay.
All right, is there any further discussion on the part of the commission under sign regulations for today? Again, I motion we put forward a motion to table discussion on sign regulations till we can agree on a public hearing date. I'd like to have the planner here to see when he's going to be present as well, if you don't mind.
I'll be back about 11th, I think.
By the 13th, they'll be. right
Okay.
back in the office. So
Okay.
he should be here for the next meeting, which I know is the next discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I guess to backtrack from that motion, we could plan on when to have the public hearing, but I'd like to discuss it more, and today's already running kind of late, so I don't want to go into any more detail today, if that's okay. So, again, there is a motion to table a discussion, the sign regulations. Is anyone second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of tabling further discussion on sign regulations, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
And I abstain.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, move on to proposed meeting time change. This was something that's just been, I think, discussed in email. We have been trying to change our meeting time to a more appropriate for most of the community, to an evening, same time City Council and the Zoning Appeals Board meets. The proposed time is 7 p.m. on the first and third Thursdays of October in the same meeting place. From the emails, I didn't see much resistance to that time. Is anyone want to discuss conflict potential?
I would prefer to keep the same times we have now, but, I will defer to the general body if you feel as though you'd like to move the meetings into the evening. I think in general, we don't get a lot of people here, and,
Right.
is there the possibility we would get more serving at night, since we're just a recommendation body? But, whatever you guys want to do is fine with me.
Okay.
I think I agree with RJ on that, but if the group decides to go to Thursday nights, I can accommodate that easily.
I would prefer to try moving it to someplace more accessible, and I think evenings would be more accessible for people. I would lean towards the evenings. I think that's one thing I wanted to do when I started, but I know that was not possible for some of the commission members at the time.
Well, this is not looking good for me. The last thing I need is another night evening. I'm wondering if the Planning Commission would consider something like today in a topic that is, that we anticipate having a large crowd, is having those kind of night
Sort of a
meetings
special-
as opposed to the regular business. And, these used to be at 2 o'clock. I didn't see anybody else here greater than when we see now here at noon. But I serve at the pleasure. So,
I will not,
There
whatever
can't be
you
a
want to
group
vote.
consensus unless there's a group consensus, though. I guess we could look at that. The other alternative is, say, the first one we meet in the evening and the third one we meet at the noon time, or something along those lines.
I do wonder what
That
the...
just creates confusion.
I get it on the citizen input, but on the businesses, then if you're talking about having your architect and your designer here to present, what is that an additional cost in terms of time to, those sort of presentations versus something that has greater citizen involvement? So,
Yeah, I think City of Columbus Planning Commission does meet in the evenings. I looked at just to get an idea when other people do meet. There is that possibility that if we have, a particular topic that we see fit, that could go to evenings, we can maintain this time, or if it's, 4 to 6 times a year, and we have sort of a regular scheduled evening one, since we are just making recommendations, a lot of times we have that flexibility on when we'll be discussing that item.
similar
So
to the
there's
town
that.
hall meeting
Right.
idea that we go out and,
Yeah.
promote it and try to get
Right.
citizens here. I
Right.
like that.
Even though we are a public board and everyone's welcome to attend, it'll be more public, I guess, is the concept.
Okay. What I'm hearing right now is, if I'm counting the votes before the vote, 3 no's, 2 maybe yes, and I don't even know where you sit. So maybe 1 yes for evening and 3 no's.
I'm trying to be the consensus maker here, and it's tough with what I'm getting from everybody else.
I do like, okay, there's the confusion of having one in the evening, one in the day.
Yeah, I think that might be a little too much.
If you had at least one a quarter in the evening.
That's what the line of thought I'm going towards right now.
Okay, and in theory, the default would be a Thursday, is that what, if we did an evening, if we had to do
Yeah.
a special meeting?
Thursday was the one that worked.
Okay.
So, but we could do it, I think Wednesday might have been open, Shar, if I remember. I think I had a conflict, but if it's not that routinely, I probably could do something like that. So I think Wednesday is open, the 1st and 3rd, so is that a conflict with you?
No,
We haven't set the evening.
What was
first
wrong with
one
the
yet.
Tuesdays?
Tuesday's city, zoning board of appeals in the evening.
Yeah.
They're second
Okay.
the second Tuesday of the month.
we would just avoid that one, I suppose.
Right.
How about how about this? Why don't we, I move that we stay in the time, even though I'll probably vote against it. And with the intent of getting feedback from people who wish to attend in the evening versus day. And I'm sure John will hear feedback on that. We'll hear feedback from the business people and retirees who can come during the day and workers who can't.
Right.
I can tell you a little bit I have heard if I did go to the evening. I've heard some people say 5:30 versus 7, right after work, rolling right from one to the other. So,
Okay,
if it happened.
So I made a motion, we stay where we are, get some input,
Okay.
and have special sessions in the evening if need be.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All those in favor of maintaining our current meeting time with the consideration for special evening meetings, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
2 opposed. 3, 4.
Before we get too far away, and I know I'm out of order now, Chairman, but
Paula, you're never out of order.
I don't know about that. We still have a number of property owners with that infamous name of landlords who are wondering where we've left them. I mean, are we going to bring this back up?
I'd like to bring it back up at the
Okay.
next meeting, but again, I'd like to have the planner here.
Okay.
And again, this may be our special evening meeting, or it may not, but we'll get that discussion as well. I think if we're going to do this, we should do it right. If there has been criticism in the past that it had not got the cross-section of the population that is going to be best suited to look at a law such as this, or recommendation, again.
And if we revisit it, I'm hoping that we'll have some positive ideas, things to work off of.
Right.
Okay. And I know Shar, did we have a packet out there with some of this information? Was this printed out there? Okay. So we have a working standard. And I will mention, just for information's sake, that the packet that we had when we were looking at this is the old code. Since the code has gone on the web, there have been some changes, but I don't think it's I think it's more of a format change than actually a language change, but I want you to make aware that when we look at this,
Right.
it's a little bit out of date.
Okay.
And I bring that up as an attention, per point of information.
Yeah, I think we'll be revisiting it pretty quickly here now. Again, we can't rule on any execution of the current law right now, so that's sort of out of this commission's hands. But it's something that we will continue to discuss pretty quickly here. Probably not at the next meeting, but I would think by the next meeting we would have something agreed to schedule when that will take place, when we'll schedule it. Go ahead.
Oh, and we were talking about trying to do the lot coverage eventually with a public hearing, right?
Yeah, lot
Okay.
coverage as well.
Okay, if you wanted to expedite this, and I doubt that it would occur, because I think we're talking about trying to do a public hearing for lot coverage in October. No, or later?
We had discussed doing, I guess that would put it on the October meeting.
I was going to talk about that for Paul.
Oh, you did?
On my
Okay.
report, but I can just mention that he asked me to relay that Matt Trainer for the Voinovich Center is doing a GIS analysis with permeable versus non-permeable surfaces, and he hopes to have that completed October the 11th and ready for our next meeting. So maybe we look at that first before
we set it up.
Yeah.
before we have them. Yeah,
That makes sense.
make sure it's done as well. I mean, I don't know where the status of it is right now. So
Well, I mean, I think that it impacts some of the same constituents, so it may be a good thing to group together in a public hearing.
And the reason why I mentioned it, Chris, again, we can put a recommendation in, but the law will not change till it gets to the council level.
Right.
So if you start saying, give it to council to tomorrow, even without a public hearing on our part, it still require a public hearing on their part, probably.
Right.
And 3 readings, committee meetings, et cetera. So
Right.
I was just trying to see if there's a need or a desire to expedite it.
I think once we received this feedback that we had requested at the last meeting on lot coverage, then, it seemed like there was no vote, but it seemed like there was general acceptance of where it was heading. So I think after looking at that, it may be something that we could just recommend to City Council. Again, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but, we are not required by law to have public hearings, again, because we are just a recommendation board. So we have a little more flexibility when we do invite public input of how that is put together. So, I mean, your suggestion of a round table isn't out at the, norm, because there is no, per se, norm with the Planning Commission when it comes to public input. We also have communication towers on the agenda. I would like to table that discussion for a little, again, since current communications went longer, we'll table that if everyone can agree to probably, again, we might be able to bring it back up in October or November. So everyone agree to table?
I move that we table it.
A second, then?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. If that's all the communications we have for today, do you have a report for us, John?
neither one of us. I already spoke to the GIS analysis
Right.
being done. So
Okay, well, thank you, John. Is there anything else those in attendance would like to address with the commission that hasn't already been said? Okay. Next, we have announcements and other business. We do have a next meeting scheduled still at noon on October the 20th, 2010, so 2 weeks from today here. Any other announcements or other business members? Last week's minutes, Shar did send those out to us previously. Everyone had a chance to review them. We can go ahead and put that to a vote. I motion that we accept minutes from last week,
So
or
moved.
last meeting, I should say.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. If there's no opposition, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all for attending.